Well, the top story this evening, the rupee falling to its lowest level in a week. This after a Bengali newspaper, Anand Bazar Patrika, reported that RBI Governor Raghuram Rajan had in fact rejected the offer of a second term. The report cited unnamed sources and said that the government does not want an extension. The report also says the Prime Minister wanted Rajan to serve another term. Meanwhile, another report on Reuters quotes unnamed government sources and says that the Prime Minister is proud of what Rajan has done. It goes on to say that the PMO has given a stern warning not to indulge in public spats with the governor. Now, this has been the buzz that's been on for several weeks now, and of course it's been exacerbated by the attack of Subramaniam Swamy, a full frontal attack, a six-item charge sheet that Subramaniam Swamy has put up for public display and also written to the Prime Minister seeking Raghuram Rajan's removal. Now, Lata joins us. Lata, you know, we've been having this discussion in the newsroom, and as much as we try and sort of veer away from giving this too much play, it's now back for us to sort of grapple with. Today, of course, the financial markets also reacting to the rumours and the reports, and hence it is imperative that we discuss this issue. What are the markets telling you at this point in time?
Well, clearly the markets have voted from the way the rupee has moved. The markets will not be happy with this kind of a development at all. For one thing, Raghuram Rajan is identified as having brought a lot of stability to the financial markets. His credibility is extremely high on several fronts, but maximum on the external front. So for the financial markets, this is, you know, they keep, you only get a flood of calls to check, is it true? Since there could be a grain of truth in this, that's why you saw the rupee fall. So for the financial markets, definitely it will be seen as extremely negative. They would see the Rajan hand as very positive for both the currency and for the economy in general.
Well, you're right. And Lata, you know, conspiracy theories and all kinds of rumors and speculation on why Rajan would be moved out or why he would not be given an extension. But we'll have those graphics play out. Jehangir Aziz also joins us now, head of emerging markets at JPMorgan. Jehangir, appreciate you joining us. We've had this conversation with you in the past, Jehangir. In fact, we did a poll and the poll unanimously voted in favor of Raghuram Rajan getting a second term. What do you now make of this business and this uncertainty that continues to surround his tenure?
Look, I mean, you know, the timing isn't ideal, of course. I mean, if you look at the global calendar, so to speak, for the month of June, you have Brexit and you have FOMC, which is a very live meeting, and people are obviously very jittery. And so if you add to that uncertainty, whether it's a rumor from a newspaper from one part of Calcutta or not, you know, it's basically adds to the uncertainty about emerging markets, and it adds uncertainty about the rupee. And if you look at, you know, what has been, you know, one of the biggest trades in the global market, in the global emerging market world, has been a structural long position on India. And so, you know, if you have a structural long position on India and you add to that global uncertainties and the, you know, in India idiosyncratic uncertainty, you are going to get that kind of a reaction in the FX market.
Okay. Well, Jehangir, let me put it this way. As a person who will have to advise positions on the currency or on India, how much credibility would you give the likelihood of the governor not getting an extension? Will you give it 75% credibility, 50% chance?
I mean, I'm going to avoid answering that question in terms of numbers, Lata. But I would say that any kind of uncertainty which you're adding to the existing global uncertainty makes you know, global investors feel queasy about any emerging market, and in this case, they feel queasy about India. So, you know, I mean, to me, you know, this is happening on, you know, on the day, one day after, you know, India posts officially at least one of the highest growth rate in India, and then you get, you know, some rumor about some newspaper in India saying that, well, you know, the governor may not be reappointment, and the market sells off. So you can get a sense of how jittery people are feeling. I mean, if this was happening on the back of a much lower growth rate, I would have understood that. But this is happening on a the day after, India posted 7.9% growth rate. So I think the point I'm trying to make is that I think the role of the government is to calm the markets down, and the way in which it can calm the markets down is by giving it a sense of certainty. Hold its hands and say everything is fine. But so far we haven't seen that from the government.
Okay, then let me change track and make Shireen as much the expert in this panel. Shireen, you have your ears pricked with a lot of people who make decisions. The buzz in Bombay is that this is crony capitalists whom, Rajan has called an NPA who are behind this move. Then there is one speculation that those who want his job, both in Delhi and Bombay, are behind this. Then there is speculation that, people are worried that he would be counted in the reshuffle. As running in for likely candidate in the FM's post, and people are trying to spoil his chance. What's your sense of all this rumor? First of all, how credible are the rumors? And secondly, what's behind all this?
I think the rumors should be taken with a little bit of a pinch of salt, Lata. And let me just address one, because there's so many, but let me address one, that this has to do with this business of a cabinet reshuffle and the likelihood of Rajan actually getting a political posting. I think that is out of the question. And I'll tell you why. I spoke with someone very, very senior, career bureaucrat, who spent his lifetime in government and politics. And what he very clearly said is that the only time India put a technocrat in the finance minister's job was in 1991. And we're not in a 1991 kind of situation. So, this business of is Rajan going to be given a political posting and hence all of this, I'm not buying that theory. And I think that one should take with a little bit of pinch of salt. But, on that question or the issue that Jehangir raised, and that's what I wanted to sort of, take forward with him. What can the government do? I mean, the Reserve Bank governor has up until September. To be fair to the government, they haven't traded charges. They've sort of said, let's not Subramaniam Swamy's views or Subramaniam Swamy's views. Perhaps they could have come out stronger against those views. But what can the government, Jehangir, say at this point in time?
Well, look, I mean, the role of the government is to make sure that all the constituencies that it serves, it is served. I mean, one of the constituencies I'm assuming is the investors who are interested in the INR and what happens to Indian stocks and Indian bonds, etc. And I think the role of the government is to actually hold the hands of investors and say that everything is fine. I mean, if you're not going to calm down the investors, the uncertainty of the investors that the investors face, where this uncertainty is built up because of rumors or because of anything else, that is something that the government needs to do. I mean, that's not what we in the market can actually deliver. So I think the role of the government has to be that it calms down nerves. And so far the government, hasn't really calmed down nerves as far as this particular issue is concerned.
Okay. We have Ashutosh Raina also joining us. He's from HDFC Bank. Ashutosh, let's take the extreme hypothesis that indeed the governor's term is not continued. Will the rupee be very badly off?
Lata, let's not forget the fact that Rajan's term ends in September, and it's overlapping with the majority of FCNR deposits which we had got, and the amount is more than around $30 billion. So it is going to impact, and markets are not going to like it. His exit at a moment when the big event for the currency markets in India is going to take place. So I think it will be prudent to have him and handle this situation as he has handled when he took over the office in 3 years back.
Ashutosh, Jehangir and Lata, I just want to make a point here. Let's just go back to UK Sinha's reappointment as the SEBI chief. There was a search and committee that was set up. They had conducted interviews, but finally the government, literally the day that UK Sinha had to retire, said that they were reappointing UK Sinha, and the buzz was that this was being done to ensure continuity in a volatile time. Remember, the markets at that point in time were seeing wild gyrations. So given what we've just heard from both Jehangir and Ashutosh, Lata, do you believe that that vote for continuity perhaps is going to prevail?
Well, in my sense, in my understanding, there should be no question at all. Every governor before Rajan has got 5 years. The parliamentary term is 5 years. There is something sensible about why you give, regulatory and decision-making people 5 years. It takes that much time to frame policy, see its implementation, and do its after-sales servicing. So, in my book, the 3-year call is only an option to see whether in the last 3 years the regulator performed his job, or he was so incompetent that the government had to remove him. Otherwise, appointments should be for 5 years, and that's how the government normally understands it. Therefore, for me, I am with Jehangir that the government should do everything in its power to quell the speculation. The other point I want to make is that, if you looked at Rajan's performance, for most things, he has actually moved towards institutionalizing. The decision of the rate itself should be made by the committee. So it's not as if he has centered power in his hands. As well, this cleanup of banks, for instance, it's half done. And bankers whom I speak to very much fear that if someone else came in this position, he would, he might rock the boat very seriously, or she might rock the boat very seriously. The person who has started the cleanup job should be allowed to see it completed. So, I mean, for a myriad reasons, I would think that, continuity is needed in this job, simply because this is a 5-year job, as is most regulatory jobs, as are most executive and lawmaking jobs.
You're absolutely right. Jehangir, final word to you. So far, there's been no comments either from the Reserve Bank on the story that says Raghuram Rajan has declined a second term, or from the government on clarifying this story at all, or putting these rumors to rest. Given that, what do you expect in the near term for the markets?
So again, I would completely agree with what Lata said. That look, you have a person in for 3 years and you're extending the term for another 2 years. The person has a mandate and the person has an agenda. But at the end of the day, we all have to realize that the central banking is not just run by personalities, right? It is run by institutional constraints and what the institutional objectives are. We shouldn't forget the fact that this government has signed an MOU with the Reserve Bank of India back in 2014, which states that there is some form of objective criteria by which it would judge monetary policy. As far as that objective, it remains as an institutional constraint on the RBI. I don't think people should, flip out because the personalities have changed. But at the end of the day, personalities do have facts. We do know in the financial world. And as again, I'm just going to, sound like a broken record and say that the job of the government right now is to calm down the nerves. And by calming down the nerves, the way they do that is by reducing the uncertainty and not adding to it.
Well, if I might
you're absolutely right on.
I just want to add one
Lata.
sentence to this, Shireen. Whatever the government decides, it should not be done out of fear. Just because the absence of a person will scare markets, that cannot be a basis for a decision. Then it means that the future relation between a very important institution, the government, is on very rocky ground. That shouldn't be. If the government is taking the decision, it should be for positive reasons, that the person has delivered on certain counts and certain jobs are half finished, and that's why. It should be done positively. My sense is that this government is mature enough to do that. And this, it is very unfortunate that we in media are falling prey to this. The sooner the story dies from the media, the gladder I will be.
Yeah, well, you have my vote on that as well, Lata. Jehangir, Aziz, Lata, Ashutosh, appreciate you joining us here on CNBC TV 18 to take this conversation about rumours forward. But we're addressing this because we are seeing now an implication as far as the rupee market specifically today is concerned. But